Okay. All right. We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Create with Me. It's Wednesday, and thank you so much for voting. I really appreciate it. And you voted on a home decor project, but have no fear because tomorrow I'm going to be live for a page hop with the Creative Course Collab and the Fall Flare. And so I'll do a little mixed media kind of panel then. So you'll actually get both choices this week. So it works out great. Hi Shannon, how are you? So but the voting for today was for the home decor project, but be sure to tune in. I'm going to post it when we finish with this live. We're going to be doing a page hop with several artists. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I will be able to do that mixed media thing. And so I'll do that tomorrow. So, but for today, we're going to do a home decor project. And I think that I've shared with you many times that I am trying to get through all of my stash of things. And so I had this little, I call it a dough bowl because it's deep, but you could call it a tray. I love dough bowls. I started to paint it out in the base color, but decided that it wouldn't take long for us to do that together. So we're going to be working with this tray, and we're going to be working with Would You Bend trim. This happens to be, it's a beautiful, beautiful wide trim. It is about uh, two it's about 2 inches wide, maybe just slightly more. And it's really nice and ornate. So I think it's going to be great for our details. But the number of this one is WBTR. TR stands for trim, and it's 725. So I have 2 rolls of these, and one is going to be for a mirror that I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adjust my camera so that you can see. Make sure and let me know if am if I am front and center instead of my project, okay? And because sometimes we have camera issues. So we've got our tray, we have our Would You Bend trim. I'm also going to be using 3 colors of paint. I'm going to be using Wiesel Chalk Synthesis paint in iron oxide. I'm going to be using the beautiful Charleston green, which is also chalk synthesis paint. And I think we're going to add a little gold dust. We're going to see how we go. So I'm also going to be using a Posh Chalk product. This is the crackling gel by Posh Chalk. I'm going to need a glue for my trim. And so I'm using Titebond Quick and Thick. This is a multi-surface glue, but they do have, Titebond does make a wood-specific glue, but this works great. I'm going to need a glue spreader, so I'm choosing to use a silicone spatula for that. And I have some paint brushes. And then really important when you're working with Would You Bend is you're going to need a heat source because this is rigid, but it softens up and becomes flexible with heat. So that's what we're going to use. Now, I've already pre-cut 3 of my pieces, but I saved 1 so that I could show you how I do that. And so this is the remainder of the roll that I have. And I just want to show you how I do that. So I'm going to make this here and get this. It's a little bit of a small thing. Let me know. I want to make sure that you can see really well. Okay. Sorry for the adjustment on the fly here. Okay. So this comes in a roll, and before I can use it or cut it, I want to heat it up so that it becomes flexible. So there's going to be a little bit of noise because I like to use my embossing gun for this because it does give the most heat. The heat tool is great. It'll work too if that's what you have, but I really like this one for making this really quick. And so because I'm working on some mitered edges that are at angles, I decided that I would pre-cut these instead of wrapping it around. If I were to wrap it around, it's going to get a little wonky because of the angles. So you can see that now this is really bendy and flexible. And you just do this with the heat. So I'm going to do a little bit more. And we're going to do that. So this is how I did this for this tray. I've got enough rolled out here. I'm going to lay it kind of flat on my surface. And then I took the tray. This is the area that I still need to do. I want to make sure that I'm using the beaded top as the top of the molding. So I'm going to lay this down on my surface. You're not going to, so I've just laid it down on here. And then I'm going to use a marker. I'm cheating a little bit. You could also just use an X-Acto knife and trim this if you wanted to, but I found that this is pretty simple, and so I do that. So I'm going to mark it on both sides. I probably just wiggled a little bit, but that's not a problem. As long as I have enough to cover, we're going to be good. Ugh, I got a little bend over here. All right, so let's get that adjusted. And now I can cut this with a pair of scissors, or if you have a cutting mat or a piece of cardboard that you can use underneath to protect your surface, then you can use that to cut it with an X-Acto knife. But I'm going to go ahead and use a pair of scissors, and because it becomes rigid fairly quickly again, I'm going to just go ahead and heat this up. And now I can take just my regular scissors and I can just cut the trim following the line that I made. Now, if for some reason you make a mistake and you go a little short, it's not a problem because it's stretchable up to about, I think it's about 10%. And so I'll be able to stretch this in place. And if I go over, I can sand it down. I can use my X-Acto knife, whatever I need to do to trim it. So it is really fairly forgiving. So I started to base coat this with my base color and then realized I'm covering so much of it up with the trim that I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and apply this first one. So you can see how plain this is and look how beautiful this trim is. I just love it. And I think it's going to make such a difference, especially with the paint finish. And I'm choosing to do a color, a 2-color finish and maybe a little gilding that will allow me to put this out in the fall. It could really go all year round, but I can do this in the fall. I can do this in the, it'll look great at Christmas time, the Charleston green, and then it looks pretty all year round. You could just do some different florals or different bowl fillers or whatever you want to do. So I'm going to put this in place, and it is a little bit bigger, but I think that is great. So I can show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to go ahead and lay this down here, and I'm going to use some of my Titebond Quick and Thick. I have a little dish over here that I'm going to use just to put some out because it makes it easier than squeezing it all the time. So this is just a little aluminum dish, and I've got one for my paint too. So I'm going to hold on. I'm just going to spread the glue. I want to make sure that I get my edges, everything, and I'm just going to get that on and get full coverage on here. I want to make sure that this is really good and secure to my piece. So you can see how easy it is to cut. I love this trim. I initially got it for the mirror, and but have I done the mirror? No, I haven't done the mirror. So that I really need to dig that out too and get that done. I've been having a lot of fun looking at pieces that I just didn't have a plan for or had a plan for, and I still have it. And so I'm looking at what can I redo, that type of thing. So that's what I'm doing. So if you have a dough bowl, I'd love to know how you use them in your home. I have them all over the place. I use them as serving pieces and centerpieces and a place to drop keys or corral things that I want to corral. And so I'm going to just put this on here. Just like that. I could have just put glue on the side of the board, the side of the bowl, but that would act as a crack, and I'm not sure that I want cracking anywhere else but on the the trim here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in place and hold that in place. I'm going to line it up over here, and I'll have a little bit of trimming to do. And so this is going to shift just a little bit. I think I want to just straighten it out while I can, right? And I can take a baby wipe or a little bit of glue, a glue brush or something like that, just to remove my excess glue. So not a problem. But I just want to make sure that it's down there in place. I do love the Titebond Quick and Thick because it allows me to do things like this without too much shifting. Okay, so I have this one lined up, and I'm going to have this little bit over here. I just want to make sure that I'm getting my corners down. So I'm going to put a little glue right there, and we're going to hold that down for a second. I also have some clamps. So I think I will get out a couple of those while we're working on this. I'm going to put one right here just to hold it in place while I'm working, and one here on this side. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that's going to hold that in place without lifting it up. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do this other side. I've got my other piece of long trim, and we're going to go ahead. I'm going to heat this up so it lays flat. I think already I just love the detail that this is adding to the bowl. So it's not so plain, and we're fancying it up. Trying to go a little quicker with this glue, and I don't want to put too much on. I just need enough to make sure that this is going to stick in place. And then I'll be able to show you how we're going to address those edges that are just a little bit long. If you do pop on here, please say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. I would love that. Okay, so we are just about there. This Quick and Thick does dry pretty quickly, even in the dish. So just like with any kind of mold or trim, you just want to make sure that you get good coverage of your adhesive and get to those edges. This particular glue does go on white and dries clear, but it's still a good idea just to clean up any globs, because that will show up in your paint finish for sure. I wanted to get these on before I came live, but it doesn't take too long. So I'm going to hold this in place, line this up, kind of straighten it up a little bit. And I want to make sure I get those other sides on pretty quickly, just so I make sure I'm lined up properly. So I'm going to push this down in place, and I can still slide it a little bit while the glue is wet and clean up that excess. So let me get a couple more clamps. Clamp this one. And we're going to clamp this one. I got these clamps actually at Five Below. So if you have one near you, they make, or did I get these at the Dollar Tree? I am not sure. I may have gotten these at the Dollar Tree, you guys. I don't know. So it's lifting up a little bit right here. So I'm going to go ahead and heat that up so that it softens it and I can push it down into place. So it just got a little rigid right there. Okay. And so now I want to get this shorter one on. Okay, and again, I'm going to heat that up just so it's laying flat. And I want to do this part pretty quickly just to make sure that the trim that I've got it all in the right places, but it's going to line up on all sides. But see, it just becomes very, very flexible. Okay, so now I'm going to just get some glue on there. On this piece, and we'll line it up. I could have added a little maybe water to this part, to my glue, just to make it spread a little easier. See if I need more. I've used the moldings for different things, but this is the first time that I've used like the long trim. All right, so this is where I want to, I'm going to see if I can turn this around, and I'm going to stand up so that you can see. So I want to make sure that I'm lined up over here. So you can see here, this lines up really nicely. And then here, it is just a little bit short. And so this is where I'm going to heat this up, and we're going to stretch it just a little bit. All right, so you can see I've got a gap here. And so I'm going to stretch it. I'm holding it down with one hand and stretching it with the other. And now I'm able to, whoops. Now I've adjusted my alignment. And I can always fill in with a little wood putty too if I needed to, but that's pretty good. It does need to be a little higher. So I'm going to adjust this while it's in place. It's also going to be covered up a little bit. So this one's just a little short. We're going to just try to stretch it a little bit more. You can see the gap right here. So I'm going to pull, and I made that gap a lot less. So that's going to be good. So we've got this here, and then we've got a little bit more over here. So I'll probably just use a little glue or a little wood filler right there. And let's get this other side done. So this is the one where I have, let's see if I'm going to need a clamp to hold that one in place. It dried pretty quickly, I think, because of the heat. I dried the glue when I applied the heat. So that's what I'm thinking. So let me get a little more on here, a little more glue in my dish. And then we're going to get on to the painting part. Probably wasted some glue, but that's all right. We're okay. All right, so I have my glue. I'm going to heat this up just a little bit, just to make sure it's completely flat. Now, I wanted to tell you the little triangle pieces that I've cut off of this trim, I'm saving because I think they would make great little embellishments on a banner or something like that. So I'm saving any of these little triangle pieces that I have. So I think I'll be able to make good use of those. I think these are just such a great way to add beautiful, you know, and you can stain them because, you know, I love IOD molds for things. And sometimes you want something that you can stain. And so because it's wood, it can do all the things that you can do with wood versus a resin or an air dry clay. So I think each has their their purpose and their strengths, right? Just like everything. I got a lot of glue on there, but all right, let's see. So we're going to attach this last one. And this is the one I went long on. So that's really funny. I bet I had measured the other side of that, and that's what happened. So I want to make sure that I have this lined up right here. So it's a little long on this side, but a little short on this side. So my measuring was not stellar today. So what I'm going to do though is dry this. I'm going to use that heat tool to get that glue to dry underneath. So I'm just drying this. And I want to make sure that I have this completely down in place, and I'm going to squeeze just a little bit to bring that together. Just a little bit. Make sure that we're lined up here. Okay, and so here I am a little long. And so this is where I'm going to take, I have a little cutting mat here, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to remove this, and now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife. I'm going to need to turn this way because I'm right-handed, and I want to make sure that maybe I can just do it this way if I take off my clamps. I've got a little, I'm going to need to heat that up so that I get the glue dry. Give me 1 second. I don't want any lifting on this. So I can push that down so that it goes right there with the glue. All right, so for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use the X-Acto knife. I know I'm supposed to pull away from myself. I'm going to need to heat that up so that it's soft. I love the trim on this. Okay, and I'm going to just gently score a little bit. I'm going to see if I can use my scissors here instead. If I were laying it down on my mat, but then you can't see. So I'm just going to trim it here. As long as it's flexible, you can cut it. So now we've cut that to size and we're good to go. So the last thing that I want to do on this is just make sure that all of my trim is secured and there are no gaps around, and there are not. And you can see that everything is pretty well lined up. I do have a little area here, but I think we're going to be able to take care of that with the paint finish. So for my paint finish, I wanted to do a 2-color finish, and I decided that I would use the Wise Owl. We're going to use the iron oxide, which is a rust color. And then we're going to top that after the crackling gel with a little bit of the Charleston green. And then we may even add a little bit of a gilding, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to pour this right in. I'm going to do this part too. And we're going to go ahead and get that inside done. This is already a little orangey, so I just need, and I don't even mind if a little bit of the gray shows up, but I do just want to get that paint on. And then I'll heat this up with that. Just get that inside done. I thought about doing a different finish, and I was going to add an inlay to the inside of this, but then I thought no, because I'm just going to be covering this up anyway. And so let's just get this inside done, and then we'll get the trim done so this can be drying while we do this, okay? So I like an angle brush for things like this, like the insides. And I'm just going to do a rough coat. Again, I don't mind if a little bit of the whitewash on the gray is showing through. Hi, Debbie. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for saying hello. We are making over a wood dough bowl or tray. I'm not sure what you would call it. I call it a dough bowl, even though it's not round. I have square bowls too that I really enjoy. All right, so we're just getting a quick coat on that, and that's going to dry. It's pretty warm again today, so I think my paint that's going to be working in our favor, you guys, because things are going to dry a lot more quickly. All right, so oops, and don't put your fingers in it. All right, so let's turn this on its side, and let's go ahead and paint out this trim. And so I'm going to be using a round brush. You could use an artist brush for that. I don't want to goop it up in the trim, but I do want to get some coverage in there. So I'm going to choose a soft round brush if I've got one. I may not have one, so let's just use this one and see how it goes. So this is not at all what I said I was going to use, but you can see this paints up pretty quickly. So I don't have too much paint on my brush, but I'm just going around like this. And let me know, I know that this could take a while, so we could just do the, one side of it, or we could do the whole thing. So you let me know, because I know that I think I'm going to have to start readjusting because my projects are becoming a little more time intensive, and I know that it's hard to do that. So I'm thinking I'll be asking for your opinion here pretty soon on how this should go. So, all right. So I'm just kind of swirling it in, getting in all of those details, right? Just like that. Now I can sand the wood bin too. If I want to do anything about my corners, I can do that. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do the underside, just the edge, and I'll just leave. Nobody's really going to see that, but I'll still paint it out a little bit. Okay, so we're just getting that. And I'm going to dry that up really quick, and then we'll go on to the next step. So I'm going to use my embossing bin. I need to hold it up. I just want to dry that paint a little bit. I see a few little wet places, but nothing too bad. And I missed a little spot there. So I'm going to grab that really quick. I think we'll just go ahead and do this one side, and then I'll share the rest, because this is going to give you the whole, every side is going to be the same process. So why don't we just do this one side together, and that will cut back on the time that it's taking. So the next thing that I want to do, I'm just going to pop that in some water. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to apply the Posh Chalk crackling gel. And so I have another, let's see, what do I have here? I'm out of my little container. So I'm going to I've got a little plate over here. So I'm going to just put some on here. And then I could sponge this on, or I could brush this on. The heavier you go with it, the larger your crackles are going to be. And my whole reason for doing this technique is so that the color will show through, and so that this rust color will show through under this Charleston green. So I want to do something. I've got a tiny little brush here, this little tiny one. So I'm going to put some on, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to brush over the whole thing. And then I'll do more of a dry brush on with my green color. Where I really want to get in is the recessed areas, because I think that'll be really pretty when that cracks, but it's going to do all over. And that's going to give us that 2-color finish that is just so, so pretty. And if I missed a spot of the rust anymore, then I'll just hit it with the green and not worry about it. So I'm just using a tiny brush. This is preventing me from, globbing too much paint. So an artist brush would be great for this. And again, I'm just brushing this is the crackling gel. It does need to dry. The crackling gel can be used on its own, or you can use it. I showed you on the sconces how you can use it with a either a crackling paste or a crackling enamel, something like that. So I can kind of turn it and see. It's going to be shiny where I've placed the crackle medium. So I'm just making sure that I got it where I wanted it. You can layer this and layer this and layer this. So let me put that one in there. And then we're going to go ahead and my cord is stuck. So hold on. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this up. I usually like to let this dry naturally, but you can speed it up with a heat gun. It just needs to be dry before you go on to the next step. My cord is giving me, oh, I know what I did. It went around the arm on my chair, so it was getting a little short, and I don't want to have to hold this too close to my molding. Let me feel it. Is it dry enough? A couple of little areas. I can feel it, and I can feel that it's so I can feel the medium on there, but it's not pulling up like it is right here. So right here is just still a little damp. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do, and we've done this is going to drive me nuts while we're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint up this little edge, since this is the one that's going to be showing while we're doing this, so that you can get the whole effect. So I'm just going to paint up this edge real quick and get that. Again, this is the iron oxide. I think the colors are really pretty together. And again, I think they're fall or Christmas or all year round, depending on what your decor is. All right, so we've got that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of my Charleston green in a dish. And this is a beautiful, it's almost like a black green, super, super pretty. So it's really like a black blue green. Is there such a color as a black blue green? I really should have strained it. I did not before we went live, because I've had that in that FIFO bottle for a while. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to fairly quickly go in as it dries. So I'm going to really quickly, I'm going to kind of come in here, kind of swoosh, and I'm going to get some really pretty interest, because it's not going to get full coverage everywhere. I did miss a little spot over there. And I'm just going to, again, I'm going to swoosh, because it's going to start crackling. And then that is the rust color, is the iron oxide is going to show through. So I'm just going to give it some coverage. I'm doing a really messy paint job. I love projects like these. I don't have to be super, super concerned. You know, if there are brush strokes, fabulous. That just adds to it. But there aren't on this. So you can see how beautifully that trim paints up. Let me get this down here. And I'm going to come in here. And then as this dries, we're going to go ahead and dry it up. Let me make sure I got this little area here. As this dries, it's going to do some little crackles. And that's going to be super pretty. Okay, so you can already see there's a little bit of that rust showing through, but it's going to show through a little bit more. And if I went too heavy in a spot, I can also use a baby wipe or something like that. We can wet distress this as well. But let's go ahead and dry this up and see if I can get the cracking to work. Again, I usually let this dry on its own. So I'm not sure how much this is going to affect this. So I'm going to see if I can see the cracking working. I really do like to let it dry on its own. Hold on. All right. So I'm getting a little bit, not a ton of the cracking, but I am getting some up in here. So I think as this dries a little bit more, it's going to be even more. And so this is what I meant about pulling. So this is just a damp baby wipe. And I'm going to just kind of, as long as the paint is not sealed and cured, I can wipe back with just, instead of sanding, I can wipe back with a damp rag. I'm going to have to sand that one corner. So I can wipe off here and just get the highlights and pull that back. So you can see how we're revealing some of that, right? Now, the last step is that I want to put a little bit of gilding on here because I think that'll give it some interest too. And if it ends up being too much, it's not a problem because we can just paint over it. So, but I really want to try it and see what I think. So I'm just wet distressing. This is such a nice, non-messy way to distress. Okay. So I definitely think you get better results if you can let that crackling medium dry on its own. But I am seeing some, just not a ton. Okay. So I've done a little there. Some more distressing here. And I'm going to dry that up really quick. And then we'll just do our last bit of paint, which is to add a little bit of it. So this Charleston green is just gorgeous. And you'll see it better in the photographs tomorrow. Okay, so I've dried that up. So next, what I have, so see the difference? I love that, you guys. I love that color. So now I thought we could just add the tiniest bit of gold. This is Gold Dust by Wise Owl. It is a gilding paint. It does not often need to be, it doesn't need to be sealed unless it's something that is going to get a lot of use. And I will seal this, and I will seal it with a satin finish so that it doesn't dull the shine. So usually I love matte, but I'm going to use a fan brush actually because it's super thin. It's not going to hold a lot of paint. I'm going to brush off here. I'm going to just go off on my thing here. And I'm going to lightly take my fan brush and I'm going to just go across just like this. So this is a really delicate brush. It doesn't allow me to apply too much paint anywhere. I'm going to pick some up off of there and I'm just going to just brush it like that. So I do think that that adds a little something, and I think it's such a really pretty combination. Let me know what you think. If you like the color too, I just love it. And again, it's going to look so pretty with some pumpkins in it and leaves, acorns, that type of thing. and then so pretty with Christmas greenery. And then I would do something probably white in the spring, something like that. But it would look great with, you know, pinks and things like that too. So this fan brush is doing a really nice job. I still see the rust here, but I'm also getting a little bit of that gold, which I think is just a really beautiful combination. Lots of things need sometimes just a little bit of sparkle, not too much, but just a little bit. So if I turn it this way, it does the slightest touch. The fan brush is great. It only goes over those little highlight areas. And then I can go this way with it. So this is what we've got on that. So I think that's a really pretty little finish on this. And then I will do this on all sides. This is what this is going to look like. I'm going to sand down this area right here and just make sure I get that. Yes, Debbie, I really love the color too. I think it's really pretty. I'm going to touch up that green there where the gilding went a little wonky, but this is just a simple little, it's just a really delicate brush. So it really is nice for things like this. Let me just touch up a little bit more. I'm just hitting those highlights, but I love how you get the rest and then you get this. So I could see this finish being done on a piece of furniture that has beautiful detailing and molding. I could see this being done on an old pot that you wanted to age, maybe add a little trim to it, ornaments, anything like that. So it's just the 2-color finish and then a little bit of gilding. So I feel like to finish the whole thing is going to be just too much for this, but I am going to go ahead and finish this up and I will share the entire piece with you. Let me just pull this up. So yeah, I love the gilding too, Debbie. I think it just adds just the right amount of something. And it certainly looks nothing like it did when we started. And that was the whole idea. So I think there are just, I don't know. I think there are so many uses for a finish like this. So I hope that you will try it. And again, if you missed, I'll be doing the page hop tomorrow. That's going to be on Facebook. I think I'm going to be able to do it here too, but I may just do it on Facebook. But that's going to start at 11 a.m. on the Creative Course Collab page. I'll post the details this evening, but you'll be able to watch the replays. And so it's going to be several artists that are all participating in the Fall Flare course that I had talked about previously, but we are getting together and doing a page hop. So with lots of different projects, and you'll get to meet a lot of different artists that you may or may not already follow. So it's a great way to get together and create. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Again, I'll be asking for some feedback on how I'm doing, with the lives only on YouTube. I've got an idea, but I really want to hear from you. So if you'll take the time just to give me a little feedback when I ask that question, I would greatly appreciate it. And let's see, this is, oh, thank you so much, Teresa. Yeah, I'm going to do something. I'll do a fall vignette for this for tomorrow, but maybe I can break it out again. If it doesn't sell in the store, then I can break it out again and do something Christmassy. Maybe I have some of my Christmas stuff. I don't know, but at least there'll be a fall vignette. And so anyway, 2-color finish, super simple. A little would you bend trim makes a huge difference on something. This was super, super plain. So anyway, again, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I'm going to finish this up and I hope you all have a great night. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.